Hi guys, here I am live from Beachlands and wrapped to be celebrating 2025. I definitely have got a vibe for this year. Whether it's the number 25 for me, apparently it's a 9 year, which is to do with new beginnings and the shedding of the old. But I like that idea of 25 because it's quite distinct. It's a quarter. And I love odd numbers. And for me, it just seems to be something a little bit different. Now, if any of you caught my live yesterday from Instagram, I was sharing that I'm going to be here today talking about. I mean, it's a golden opportunity. It's the start of a new year. We've got that idea of starting afresh. Some of you will have set goals, some of you will have made outrageous New Year's resolutions, I'm sure. And I'm here to share my thoughts on this whole idea of new beginnings and noticing the small stuff. I was sharing about, being inspired, taking opportunities as they present themselves, um, tapping into impulses to do something different. If you feel the impulse, go with it. And noticing that it's the small things that lead to the big things. This is massive. Now, this is actually behavioral science as well. We know this stuff. You reinforce the smallest behaviors, you build on them, you gradually raise criteria, and then you celebrate the big win. I've shared that story of, how do they train animals to do all these amazing things? Often when we look back to the first behavior, it is nothing, absolutely nothing like the end result. And I mean, a real classic example that most of us can relate to in terms of people is how does a baby learn to walk? I remember doing this, I lectured in early childhood years ago, and the first behavior, the first sign that a baby is learning to walk is it starts moving its head. Now, people, go, really? People were saying, oh, well, it's crawling. No, that's well down the line. And this is why we need to tune ourselves into noticing opportunities. So when a baby starts moving and it's moving its head first, we give them feedback, we encourage them. And then I joke because then we spend the rest of their lives, once they're walking, we spend the rest of their lives telling them to sit down and be quiet. But anyway, I digress. So today I really wanted to talk about this idea, a tie-in self-care, because it's the beginning of a new year. We're making resolutions, we're setting goals, we're setting targets, and the small stuff and language. So it's kind of three things coming together. Self-care, because what has transpired for me through talking to my clients is we tend to have this view of self care as being something that we do now and again when we've got time. We might go and have a facial if we're a gal, we might go and have a massage. If we're a guy, we might go fishing, or we might have a beer with the blokes, or whatever it is. I'm being very gender specific here. Uh, but it's something that we do now and again when we've got time, and it's seen as an action or an activity. And the crucial thing for me was going back to this noticing the small stuff. I thought, no, self care is much smaller than that. Originally, when I talked to my clients about it, I was suggesting uh, bringing joy into their life and taking opportunities, taking that odd 5 minutes to sit and maybe turning your meal times or your morning tea, or just grabbing 5 minutes and making it special, making it something important for you. One client had her favorite chair, so she brought a nice pillow, and she had a great favorite coffee mug, and she turned that into a moment of self-care, creating some joy, creating something out of nothing in a sense. So that was my original sort of narrowing it down to something that it doesn't need to involve a lot of money, it doesn't need to involve going anywhere. And then I started drilling down even further. What was even more important about self-care? And this is where I started to realize there is so much more to it. It's not something we do now and again, it's something we do daily. And it begins with how we talk about ourselves. And in many ways, some people might argue it begins with what we believe and what we think about ourselves. But the behavior analyst in me says it's easier to change your actions than it is your thoughts. Hi, Carolyn. Thank you for the feedback. Um, uh, Now I'm off track. I'm talking to people. This is why you need to focus, isn't it? And this is why people are doing these sort of things on a live scale, have helpers to type in the comments. I was really blessed, I think it was last year or the year before, to support Dean Graziosi in the event that nearly broke the internet, which was the Matthew McConaughey live event. And I was in the chat rooms chatting to people, which was really exciting. But anyway, I digress. So going back to this language and how we talk about ourselves, that is absolutely where self-care begins. And the reason that I think this is so important is because it gets sidetracked. We miss it. We have these throwaway comments that we use about ourselves. I've challenged people to think about how they talk to themselves when things are going well, but equally, how do you talk to yourself when things aren't going so well? Where's the self care in your language? And I've put together a little checklist that covers off some of these areas of self care that I think are missing when we talk about self care as a subject. It's the small stuff, it's the insignificant stuff, the stuff that we think I'll get to later because I need to go and have my massage, but the rest of the time I don't care about myself. And for me, this was absolutely the starting point for shifting how I treated myself, how I spoke to myself was the starting point. And I've shared an experience with some of my clients, which at the time actually reduced me to tears, which was when I spoke to myself, which is quite freaky to do this, around how I treated my body previously. I've got a reminder set off to keep me on task. And, actually apologizing to myself for the way I spoke to myself, for the way I physically treated my body previously. And yet it still turned up for me, it still performed for me. I still managed to run marathons and do crazy things, even though I had this very distorted view of nutrition and what I was consuming. And, that was self care going back to basics. Until I could speak to myself properly, how was I ever going to shift the stuff like the food and the physical side of self care? And something else that has cropped up when I've been talking with clients is their belief about themselves. What do you believe is possible? What do you believe is the truth around you? What's your truth versus what's the truth of other people? Now, I've had some very interesting experiences recently where people have shared things with me about me that was absolutely blew me away because I did not have that view of myself. It was incredibly I say complimentary, but it wasn't, they weren't looking at complimenting me, but they were giving me very powerful, positive feedback that I simply couldn't see. And it's the truth lies somewhere in the middle, isn't it? We all know the truth, the dark truths about ourselves, but maybe we get stuck in those dark truths and we need to be taking on board some of the positive aspects and the positive feedback that we get from other people. And there's the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So, language, how we talk about ourselves, how we view ourselves, for me, is the small stuff around self-care. And that means that suddenly the excuses, oh, I haven't got time, I can't fit it in, I'm really busy, I've got other people to think about. Suddenly that all disappears because all we're needing to do is change how we talk about ourselves. We don't need to find extra time. We don't need to create financial abundance overnight to be able to do a trip to Hawaii. We simply need to go, I am no longer going to use this language. I am no longer going to talk about myself this way. And equally, I will be using this perspective. I will be using positive language when I refer to myself. I will be using encouraging language. And the key here, and I had a discussion with a client yesterday who is an expert at it, is noticing patterns. If you can't notice the patterns, then you're going to struggle with this. And how do we shift patterns if we can't even begin to see them in the first place? And this is where sometimes it is useful to have somebody on the outside calling you out. And I do this a lot in my sessions with clients, not rudely, very, very tactfully, but I will just say, would you say that to somebody that you care about? How would you talk to somebody, a friend of yours, who was struggling with that? Would you use the same language? And they all get it. And this is another interesting point. We can all get it intellectually. We understand. We know what we need to do. But that gap, and I think I shared this yesterday in the Instagram, that gap between knowledge and the application can be massive. And I suffer this myself. I know lots of things and I'm sharing lots of stuff with my clients. And again, this client yesterday, I had her cracking up because I was doing my usual line when I come up with a gem. And I said to her, wow, maybe I should try that. It was to do with decluttering. And we got to the idea of taking photographs before and after to inspire her. But the other thing was, we also talked about starting with the small stuff. If you're trying to declutter a whole house, what do you end up doing? Too big, too much effort, too painful, so you do nothing. And I think this is the same with self-care. It's too big. It's too massive. It's going to involve lots of money, lots of time. I've got family, I've got a partner, I've got a job, I've got my career, whatever excuse there is out there. And we do nothing, or we do token gestures. But as I said before, if we can't talk nicely about ourselves, if we can't reflect through a positive lens about ourselves, how on earth are we going to sustain physical self-care? Now, there's lots of stuff going on here, but if you want to start small, I would suggest starting with language and think of how you respond to somebody, for example. Here's a good one, because classically, Caroline has given me some great ammunition. How do you deal with compliments? When somebody says something nice about you, do you throw it back at them? The joke in our family used to be when somebody commented on an outfit you were wearing, and invariably one of us would say, "Oh, this old thing, I've had it for years," or "I got it at an op shop for $5," or something like that. We throw the compliment away. And there is absolutely the opportunity there to shift your language, to accept the compliment graciously. I also say to people, when you throw away a compliment or you throw it back at somebody, you're kind of questioning their judgment, aren't you? And so I hope I responded appropriately. I can't remember now. I think I said thank you, Caroline, for the compliment rather than negating it and referring to myself in a less than positive way. So maybe that could be the small, simple start to self care, to changing how you respond to something like a compliment or positive feedback. Because there you can just notice the patterns. How do you have a pattern of response? Oh, yeah, but, oh, yeah, but, oh, really? I need a haircut, or oh, really? This old thing. How do you respond to that feedback? Now, as I said, I have created a PDF that I would like to share with you. If you would like a copy of it, it's a checklist, and it goes into a little bit more depth of some ideas around simple self-care that doesn't involve money, that doesn't involve a ton of time, that just involves your commitment to checking in with yourself. This is a golden opportunity at the start of the year. Can I start small? Can I shift how I think about myself, how I speak about myself? And can I build on this to, to bring about bigger changes in my life? Because it's the small stuff that leads to the big stuff. And, I talked about that funny little trip I had yesterday, that adventure where all these little small things led to me catching up with a neighbour. And we're going to be talking about some work opportunities which could lead to bigger stuff. But if I hadn't done all those little things along the way and noticed them, it wouldn't have happened. So, lots to think about. Drop me a direct message. I will share the link. I am practicing like crazy with this new platform that I've got that's presenting its own challenges from a technological point of view. But I'd love to share this PDF with you. Of course, there's also the opportunity to book a free call with me because, as I've suggested time and time again, everybody needs somebody backing them. That gap between what we know and what we need to do can be huge. And it's not unusual. It's not anything to do with something being wrong with us. It's just human nature. And again, I have laughed with clients about this fact that everybody needs somebody. There aren't just a few of us that are for some reason special. We all need it. We all need that distance, that person looking through a different lens at our situation and being able to give us some guidance, some feedback, and classic coaching to really get the best out of our situation, to enable us to see that we're already doing a ton of stuff. This is my biggest revelation with many of my clients, is they undersell where they are. Hi, Karina. They minimize what they've done and they discount their achievements. So half of my coaching is actually reminding people that they are on the right track, doing it, just keep going and enjoy it. And I guess this is another part of this whole New Year thing. It's perfect opportunity to launch into it in a different way. It's significant, a significant opportunity. And it enables us to then go, hey, okay, I'm marking the start of this year. I'm going to talk about myself differently. I'm going to start small. I'm going to start with how I accept compliments. And I'm going to notice the difference, and I'm going to celebrate that difference. And the knock on effect is it starts to permeate all areas of your life. But you have to start somewhere, and having somebody to just go, hey, you did it, as opposed to yourself going, oh, yeah, I did it, but I could have done more. I could have done 3 times better. I mean, I'm always using the gym analogy, right? If you don't go to the gym, going once a week is a breakthrough. But usually you'll get people saying, I'm going to go 7 days a week. And I'm going, how likely is that to happen? And then what does happen is you make it once, but because you haven't been 7 times, you discount that one time. Behavior analysts, we rock big time. And because we are tuned in to noticing the small stuff and giving that feedback to clients that enables them to feel successful from day one. Right. I am going to love you and leave you. Please DM me if you'd like a copy of my self-care checklist. And there's also the opportunity to book in a free call with me to see if my coaching is a fit for you, to find out where you're at. And if nothing else, you will leave with something actionable, something you can do to feel better about yourself, to shift your year, to shift your outlook. Maybe you feel great about yourself, so maybe it'll be something else, but there will be something that you can walk away with, that you can start doing. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate you, Caroline and Karina, and I will catch up with you guys real soon. Bye for now.